out, and so we are going to capture this as World Building Podcast Network. We are here with Benjamin Thomas, Ben Thomas, One Love Trust, and then the ability program is again Ben.
Sustain Studio, and also Ariel Judah Incorporated, arieljudah.com.
All right,
Uh,
Sustain Studio and Ariel Judah. All right, very good. And today's program is Tech Tuesday. So I'm looking forward to this. I'm learning right along with you folks. This is my first Tech Tuesday. Ben, take it away. Show us how we do it.
all right. So Tech Tuesday is all about, the big mistake. So when people start a business or a project, they immediately waste weeks doing computer work. They build websites, send fancy emails, try to automate everything before they even have a single customer. So it feels like work, but a lot of times it's just hiding. So if you build if you build a massive digital system for an idea that nobody wants, you're actually wasting your time. So the Tech Tuesday rule: if you can't sell your idea to one person using a basic phone call, a piece of paper, and a pen, then the software will not save you. So it's all about finding the friction. So instead of building tech, your only job on Tuesday is to talk to three people and kind of ask them three simple questions. Don't just sell them anything yet. Just listen. So you want to ask about their past. So you want to ask, how did you handle this problem last week? Listen to see if they actually tried to fix it or if they don't really care. Find the pain. What was the worst part of that? Listen for where they get frustrated, tired, or are losing money. Like you want to get an understanding of what their pain is. So you want to look at the easy fix. So how are you surviving right now? What is the sloppy things in their business that we can fix? So if they show you a messy notebook or crazy group text chain, that is kind of the business blueprint, unless it's written in a performa, unless it's written in, quality business blueprint. You've got to look at the bare, roots of it. So your job is to just make that messy fix a little bit easier for them. So we're gonna stop hiding behind our computers and face the real world. So we want to know, like, who are you trying to help, and what is making their life miserable right now. Don't just tell me about your website. Don't just tell me about your app. I want to know what are you building. Um, but yeah, I would want to ask you guys. So, tell me a little bit about World of Ability and everything. And, if there is any tech side of this that we're wanting to automate and, stripping it down. I really love the live stream aspect because we're able to reach so many people and it's just straightforward. If we're doing this consistently, everybody should be able to see it. And, that's what we're doing. We're building a community that automatically reaches, thousands because we sustain the ability to do that. Kind of answer my own questions. Not sure if you guys, really chiming in today. Um, but you got to always connect with, your event organizers and everybody to make sure that, you're scheduling your volunteers for events and things like that as a sustainability expert. And one thing that, I really want to bring to everybody's attention today is Partiful. Partiful is a tool where you can gather all of your volunteers, your people who have attended past events, and you can use that tool to pool them and text them directly, do all your automation in one spot. And that way, instead of just texting 50 people individually and seeing that a few people didn't show up, now you can have like a better view of everything. You might be using Eventbrite. I use that in a corporate setting, but people are using Partiful. It's really easy. It helps you a lot. And so basically, once you know the real problem about, like, you know, event organizing or strategizing with your team, people get really exhausted because, like, a lot of people will flake out. So don't spend, hours and days trying to figure that out and just like, oh, I'm gonna send an automated email here. I'm gonna like do this big text. Like, call those people and ask. Really reach out and use your devices for that. And make sure that you're able to get people's real one-on-one interactions so they can really contribute. Um, and yeah, so basically, I want to ask you guys some questions. So how did you coordinate, volunteer shifts for, like, for example, Kurt, for the big telethon? How did that work? How did you guys organize that? How'd you coordinate
Well, what happened a year ago is we did a veteran telethon with vets in need, and um, so we had Project Die Hard, the Disability Channel, Connect to Your City, and People for New America. We all did a couple hours each, teamed up and put it together as an 8 hour telethon in support of veterans. So what happened was is I'm a board member now with Helpopedia, helpopedia.org. We're premiering our directory, specialneeds.help. And so basically with the co-founder, Phil Vitrano, he knew and I was advocating to him about how I'm happy to make available this telethon format. So he took to it, and in a meeting when I was talking about doing an event and doing stuff, I wasn't necessarily pointing to the telethon, but I think my prior conversations just brought Phil there, and so he took to the idea and we ran with it. We're hosting on this Zoom we're on now. We're hosting on Wednesdays, 11 a.m. Central, a an ongoing planning meeting now through July 22nd. That'll be the day before the July 23rd telethon. And we're doing a 2 hour telethon. So it's like a micro telethon, because there's not much marathoning with it, but a 2 hour event anyway on the Zoom that Phil Vitrano hosts us with. And he's going to be the MC. And we got offers like with Coach K and so forth to be an MC
it?
for the
Awesome.
event as well. And we've got about 30 people that circulate around being contributors in one way or another to the work we do at Helpopedia and with the special needs directory. Part of that number is our board of directors, such like that. So we just kind of carve out who our speakers are going to be and what our plans are for live streaming. Emily here is going to be a podcast assistant for the event. And, um, it's going to just be teaching people how to donate to Helpopedia and, how things can go through the special needs directory. And, so constant informative programming, edutainment. So educating all that stuff, but then entertaining people. So it's fun to watch and captivating. And we're open to having entertainers or performers, people with talents and stage performers doing card tricks or whatever it is. They can bring something to the show. They can apply with us and be a part of it that way. And professionals who think they have something to contribute to our directory project and want to share that devotion to you know create a future of having just a remarkable access to information for folks at home who are a person with a disability or family member or guardian or whoever's got to go in there and help make a plan surrounding a diagnosis or a disability function aspect and a little bit of lifestyle development tool around people with disabilities. So the telethon is a social media campaign. It's going to go out on global streaming television networks and sharing our contact information, QR codes, and all of our contact information so that folks can email if they want to do that. They can comment through our social media pages, whatever it may be, however convenient, contacting us on WhatsApp, you name it, just trying to shake the trees and say, we're here to support parents and youth. And any ideas people have, any offers, we will field those offers as the volunteer base. And we're just taking a roll call. Like I said, with our 30 people, just are you going to be there? Not going to be there? Are you attending? Are you part of the audience? Are you part of leading this? Are you presenting? Are you not? Are you going to help us with communications and
Yes.
sorting out what everybody wants to do or not? And going with what we've got based on what our volunteers are actually volunteering for that event. And that'll be running 6 p.m. to 8 Central that day.
That's exciting. That's exciting. And so, yeah, so it's all about, you know, having a clear offer. And that's when the tech comes into it. The hard law about Tech Tuesday is if you cannot sell your solution to a single human being but using nothing but a pen, a pad of paper, and a phone call, then software is not going to save you. And so, exactly what you're saying about working with your network and pulling in the right team and the right resources to really make that project work at a high level is genius by everybody being in their right place. Um, and so the next thing I want to talk about is like the no pitch discovery loop, and being able to kind of have what we call memory darts. I learned this from Steve Woodruff. He calls himself the clarity expert. And, whenever you're talk, like, for example, Kurt, when you talk about, our goals here, you talk straight about the solution. We're going to bring, support to this community. We're going to bring attention to these details. You're already, seeing the full scope, by speaking it into existence. And the automation, it always comes from the communication. So knowing, who needs to be contacted at a specific time, making sure that there is time blockers in place to make sure people are reached consistently is really important. So we call that, checking the past behavior, isolating the bleeding edge, seeing what's the single worst hardest part of, managing that and getting a hold of those people, and then watching the workaround, like showing people the data and making sure that they have access to all of the correct criteria to solve this issue and automate it. Whether you're using like Zapier, to automate a website, or you're just using, a contact form, or just, even just using a Google Drive form to collect polls to get data, or it all is going to work out if you're able to work with that community. And so that brings me to part three. So this is something I call the manual concierge blueprint. And so once you find the bleeding edge problem, you don't just go build the app. You run, a concierge service and really solve that problem and see it, grow in people's lives. So if an organizer's problem is that group text cause no-shows, you'll tell them to, get the volunteers' phone numbers and then make sure that, you text them directly. You want to confirm their shifts, make sure that you have a head count and everything. You sometimes you do it by hand, but that's what you're going to be automating. You're going to learn, okay, if I'm going to lead a group of 50 people, I need to know who all they are. So once you start doing that metric and having that spreadsheet, then you start automating it into your CRM, which could be many different things. We're keeping it basic today. Um, but yeah, a lot of people get confused because, when an organizer just steps into a situation, it's like just answering the phone, just catching up with people. But at the bare minimum, you've got to make sure that you know who you're speaking to and take note of it. Um, and then the last thing today is to, kind of just step away from automation today. Let's think about the bare minimum. We all have our AI. We all have, our automation tools. We all have all these things that keep us, ahead of the game. But sometimes it's good to tear it down to the bare minimum, write a to-do list, get familiar with who's on your team, what their roles are, and write that out and get a clear vision of what that automation process is. Looking at all the things that we kind of have in a magic eight ball and making it just a clear, thing. And having it on a whiteboard is really helpful for me. Just using a notepad is always great. And yeah, and so before the sun goes down today, I want you to pick three real people in your space, whether it's a contact like Kurt, over at Ability Radio, or somebody, just in your circle. Reach out to them and don't just pitch them. Ask them like three discovery questions. Listen to their friction. Document their exact words. You want to build the demand by hand today. and then scale it with more tech tomorrow. Tomorrow is Workaholic Wednesday, and we're shifting from the market to individual, like from the market to the individual. So tomorrow on Workaholic Wednesdays, we're talking about how you're going to leverage your efforts as an individual to the highest level, for your health.
All right, it looks like we lost Ben here. We're going to give him just a little moment here if he got caught off guard with his device, hopping off here, with power or whatever happened. I see that Emily isn't on here either. So I'm just going to kind of give this up. Here's Benjamin coming back. So let's see what we got here. We can set Benjamin as a co-host again.
Little
And
technical difficulty, excuse me. But yeah, I was just segueing into to Wednesday, and tomorrow is about the workaholic side of things. So today is about tech. It's a simple class today. This is kind of a freestyle, a little bit, giving you some insights on how I feel about tech right now. I just feel like with all the automation, with all the resources, with all the different things that we can tell you, the main thing that you got to do right now is strip down to the basic and know what your main goals are, what your main priorities are, and making sure that you're communicating with the people and the audiences that you're wanting to help, and not just leaving it to robots. We don't want to get our consciousness taken over by the tech age, And so tomorrow is about being a workaholic. So yeah, that's why we use these automation tools. That's why, we get up early. That's why we go to the gym. And so we're going to talk about using time blockers to have a functional lifestyle, and using technology and using healthy living to really push a healthy lifestyle as a workaholic. So, thank you, Kurt, for joining me. Thanks for adding some value to this conversation, and for giving us a rundown on how the telethon is going to work. I'm excited to join with you again tomorrow for Workaholic Wednesdays. And yeah, thank you guys for understanding with the technical difficulty on my end.
all right, it's all good in the hood. Thanks, Ben, for bringing it. So there you go. Our first Tech Tuesday here through this format, and first one for me. So we're looking forward every week forward Tuesday, and then our Monday through Friday format. We're talking about Workaholic Wednesday here. So definitely keep with us on all this programming. We're going to bring out a lot of powerful messages, thoughts, and ideas, suggestions, the whole thing here. So we're partnering it up, creating that extra value. We keep adding value here at the World Ability Podcast Network. If you have any comments, questions, concerns about anything we do here at the network, or here with my side of things here with Tech Tuesday, feel free to give me a call or text my Google Voice line 262-372-1754. And you can also shoot over emails my way anytime on anything. Kurt, Kurt, at projectdiehard.org. So I'll do it for today. We'll catch you next time. We're doing this on the daily. We live stream and do podcasts. We're doing it all week long and twice on Sunday. All right. Bye for now, everybody. Thanks for being a part of our community.